Welcome, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to join today. My name is Priscilla, and I'm on the marketing team here at Samsara. And today I'm joined by Mira, who is on our customer success team. Our training today will be focused on how to build a safety program. There's a lot to cover, and we're excited to get started, so let's just dive right in. We'll first talk about how to analyze your safety data to create actionable goals and build a plan. Then we'll share some best practices for getting driver buy-in for effective change management. And last but not least, we'll share how you can use tools and reward programs to drive measurable impact. After the training, you'll get a recording of the session in a follow-up email, and I'll also send out these slides so you have them. There might be some resources that you want to click into. There are steps and kind of little worksheets that you might want to utilize, so we'll make sure to get that into your hands. We also have our stellar support and customer success teams on the line ready to answer your questions. I think some of you guys have already submitted some in the Q&A box, but you should see that Q&A box on your screen. Let me see if I can highlight that for you as well. There you go. So you should see that highlighted now. If you have a question, just type it in and hit send. The team will answer everything they can, and we'll follow up on anything we're unable to get to or help out with live during this webinar. I have 5 people on the line today helping answer your questions: Beth, Sylvia, Sarah, Elizabeth, and Nicole. They will be taking care of you today. All right, to kick us off, Samsara has a mission of improving the efficiency, safety, and sustainability of the operations that power our economy. And that's all of you. And for the last few years, we've been focused on driving innovation in the areas of real-time data, artificial intelligence, and open APIs. We have a large team dedicated to research and development, and of course, customer support. And we truly believe that this is a partnership. So on behalf of the entire Samsara team, I just want to thank you for choosing us and trusting us with your business. All right. I think we've gotten feedback in the past that you guys really enjoy polls. So let's go ahead and do one right now, kick off the webinar. What is your main goal for your safety program? This is a poll that you can choose as many options as you feel represents where you're at right now. What's your main goal for your safety program? All right, let's take a look. So some folks don't have a safety program right now, but a lot of people want to coach drivers, reduce the number of accidents, understand the cause of those accidents, reduce liability claims, improve insurance rates, exonerate their drivers. Yes, I think you guys should all feel pretty good that there are a lot of other people who are in the same boat as you. And I thought it would be helpful to take a moment to check in and just get a pulse of the industry overall and share some research with you. Really take stock of the historical trends that we've been monitoring across all fleets, especially this last year. And we hear pretty unanimously from all of our customers that, you guys care deeply about safety, that you have this shared goal and desire to protect drivers on the road and also to reduce costs from safety incidents. I think the poll results show us that, even within the room here that we're doing for this training. But for a lot of fleets, this can be kind of an uphill battle. It's pretty challenging, and it's not just this way for our customers or for you all. It's the industry overall. You can see in this graph that both accidents and related costs are on the rise. This data is from 2018 from the FMCSA. You see that blue line, which represents crashes, increasing with over 540,000 bus and truck crashes. And then the red line is showing costs associated with each of those crashes increasing as well, with more than $130 billion spent in 2018. And we can only imagine how much more that's gone up since then. Not only are we seeing crashes and the associated costs of those crashes increasing, we're also seeing insurance costs go up over time as well. And, when you take into account nuclear verdicts, and that's where jury penalties exceed $10 million, insurers are also burdened with these exorbitant penalties, and it forces them to increase insurance premiums. So these additional costs weigh heavily on fleet owners or you guys. and you're already facing increasing insurance premiums, increasing costs related to crashes, related to safety incidents. In some cases, we're hearing that insurance costs can be raising over 50% annually. And really what we're looking at in this graph and on this slide are really just some of the hard costs. It's also important to weigh other opportunity costs that haven't been accounted for in our conversation yet. You know, accidents reduce things like productivity if the vehicle is damaged and has to be taken off the road to be fixed, or your office might have to spend time with extra paperwork. And there's also the aspect of damage to your reputation. You know, on-the-job incidents hurt both existing relationships and also affect your public CSA scores, which, as we all know, can make it harder to win future business. We also know that there are unique challenges created by today's environment. Our data science team has taken a look at the aggregated information across all of our customers to see how safety has been impacted by the pandemic. And what we found was that although roads are less congested, speeding has risen by as much as 20%. You can see this graph with the data on the right-hand side with the baseline of speeding rates in early March of last year compared to speeding rates climbing significantly throughout April and May. This trend poses a real challenge since speeding significantly increases the risk of crashes and fatalities. And this, coupled with that FMCSA data, shows that 71% of large truck crashes occur due to driver distraction, which has further motivated us to find meaningful solutions to these challenges through our AI dash cams and the different alerts and AI kind of identified behaviors that is available in your dashboard today. When you take into account the rising costs of insurance, settlement claims that are through the roof, and the general need to do more with less, something that's been really interesting to us is that despite the fact that there's so much at stake, only 42% of companies really have structured fleet safety programs. And we're hoping that you are here today to learn more about how to either build one for the first time or improve the one that you have. And I have a follow-up question for you. What's your biggest pain point that you're facing? Is it figuring out how to get started? Is it defining your goals? Is it getting buy-in from your leadership or from your drivers? Maybe measuring the success of your program? Let us know where you are the most stuck, and we'll be sure to talk about some of these in our training today. Okay, let's take a look at what you guys all said. All right, I think the first top one is getting driver buy-in. That's definitely a big topic, and we have a whole section dedicated to that, so you're in the right place. The second one is creating the right incentive programs. Yes, figuring out how to get started. Yeah, definitely really important is, you know, when you're doing something for the first time, understanding what is a framework that you can use and go through all the steps to get to your end destination and your end goal, right? Company leadership buy-in, training, defining goals. Yes, I hope that you guys feel better, you know, seeing that a lot of you are facing the same kinds of challenges. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mira now to go through some of the product features and program strategies that you can use for what you need in your fleet and your safety program. So take it away, Mira.
Thank you, Priscilla. As Priscilla said, my name is Mira. I'm a member of Samsara's customer success team. And we're going to talk today about seeing real value from Samsara using programs that leverage our technology to achieve your goals. Purchasing, installing, and configuring Samsara is only the first step. So we're going to look at analyzing safety data to create actionable goals and build a plan, which requires detailed planning and collaboration across all levels of your organization. It's possible to expect criticism and resistance, but this can be prevented and managed by focusing on collaborating across the organization to foster a culture of safety with a behavior-based program. And data-driven goals will really demonstrate the priority and value of success for your organization. So the first step to planning the safety program is to evaluate your existing program. Think about what's working well already. What are your blockers for a so-called perfect program? And any ideas from your peers that you might want to try out. And Samsara has a variety of resources which you can use to help design your plan, which again, we will be sending in some follow-up for this webinar. A great starting point is to identify the safety data that you might have on hand. So for whatever problems you might be trying to solve, like collisions or driver behavior retention, CSA scores, auto claims, insurance costs, you might have information already that demonstrates those problems, data on the frequency, cost, or impact. And you can actually use the Samsara safety dashboard to view high-level safety trends and identify risk factors based on the data that your Samsara devices are already collecting. We also offer the Fleet Benchmarks report that compares how your fleet's performance is trending relative to peers of similar fleets. So you can identify potential areas of improvement that way. It's also good to evaluate stakeholder sentiment. What are the priorities of others in your organization? Which leads into additional information that you might need. Gathering feedback and ideas from stakeholders regarding their problems and priorities is important. And you need to evaluate the tools that are available to gather this data, create solutions, and measure the impact of your initiatives. And there may be various steps to configure those tools or assistance needed to move forward. So consider looking at some of the training and support that is offered by Samsara in addition to the reports in your dashboard. When you're thinking about your goals, it's important to actually work backwards. Start with your current state data and define attainable metrics for relevant time-bound goals for each specific problem. So this may be a % change from the current state or dollars saved, or you may be targeting specific driver behavior. And Samsara has numerous examples of improvements attained by our customers, some of which we'll be highlighting in today's webinar. And again, we have lots of resources to help with building the action plan. Once you know your baseline and you establish goals for suggested changes, the success of adoption will also factor into the impact projected. So it's important to continue evaluating the data and doing the math at every step of this process. Step 2 is identifying the new initiatives that you're going to target. You might prioritize these based on things like cost effectiveness or level of effort. Maybe you have existing programs that can be improved or inactive programs that can be reinstated that would be less expensive or have a higher potential impact. And also think about the importance versus urgency of the various initiatives. The highest priority initiatives are both urgent and important, whereas lowest priority would be less important or not urgent. And be sure to collaborate with your drivers and other stakeholders in addition to the core safety team to know what's important and urgent organization-wide. Step 3, once you've identified your initiatives, it's important to create an action plan for the top initiatives where you define your baseline versus goal metrics, identify the first steps to enact the initiative, and plan follow-up actions to ensure long-term success. Let's take a look at an example of one of our customers that was able to improve the safety of their fleet using coaching features. Sprint Waste actually won the Samsara Top Fleet Award for Safest Fleet in 2020. They drove alignment at all levels to get impactful cost savings across the enterprise. Sprint Waste has weekly and sometimes daily safety meetings with their drivers where they use the Samsara safety inbox to triage events and assign safety incidents to managers for one-on-one coaching. They also have group coaching sessions that include real footage of learning opportunities, both positive and negative, from the dash cam footage that's collected. The entire leadership team also has a safety call each week where they use Samsara to track safety trends and improvements for their coaching and program effectiveness, as well as driver behavior. As a result, they've seen an overall 58% decrease in the frequency of speeding incidents and a 50% decrease in the average dollars per claim. So be sure to use that coaching page to access driver coaching workflows. There's ways for Samsara to automatically set certain event types to needs coaching and automate driver and coach assignment to save time and reduce admin work. You can also report on the timeliness and effectiveness of your coaching and measure the frequency of repeat behavior after coaching. So there are some great ways in your dashboard to use Samsara for driver coaching. The president of Sprint Waste Services, Dave Nelson, stated that the fact that the videos are of their own trucks and own drivers has resulted in a powerful coaching experience because people like to see themselves. So sharing that real footage in coaching sessions increases the impact by making a personal connection. They also used footage to exonerate drivers from more than half of all collisions in 1 year and saw a decrease in driver turnover. So if you're concerned about a safety program creating tension or division with your drivers and increasing turnover, it's possible to actually decrease driver turnover by building that culture of safety. And Sprint Waste also saw an overall 50% increase in the number of miles between safety incidents. So if Dave had filled out that action plan, it might have looked like this. Their top initiative would have been to reduce excessive speeding for all drivers. First step would be to work with drivers to understand why they were speeding and follow up by setting up alerts from Samsara to notify safety managers when drivers exceed the speed limit. And whatever your action plan is, it should be relevant to your organization's safety priorities. Once you have that action plan and you're aligned with all of your internal stakeholders, lay out the plan on a timeline with some key milestones. The time to complete each step can vary depending on your fleet size and complexity, and it's important as you go through this timeline to iterate using data, feedback, and learning opportunities to make course corrections along the way. So you might have a kickoff workshop with your stakeholders to define goals and collaborate on this timeline. And even if you're already installed or configured, there may be adjustments to make or new devices to add. And for configuring your dashboard and training your stakeholders, we recommend using a train the trainer approach. Samsara can train your core team to customize safety scores, automate coaching workflows, set up alerts, and more via our live new user webinars and training center courses. We have a lot of great resources to empower that core team with the knowledge and resources to train other departments and drivers in the field, which helps instill accountability and maximize adoption when your core team is the one training everyone else. Also, you might want to consider a soft versus hard cutover from any existing systems during that completion of installation and configuration. If you already have some other technology or solutions in place, come up with a transition plan that makes sense for you. And also be sure to plan ongoing training and communication after going live. This process is iterative, so it's always important to check back with everyone and make sure that everyone's still on board and aligned with the program. And on that note, we're now going to talk about getting driver buy-in for effective change management. I know in the polls we identified driver buy-in as one of the top reasons for needing to effect a safety program and attend this webinar. So drivers can be understandably skeptical about having in-cab dash cams. It's important to get buy-in with an engaging, understanding approach and highlight for your drivers that the dash cams are there to protect them too. Change management is very important because 70% of employees say they're most engaged when leadership communicates openly about changes. Active and visible executive sponsorship is the #1 contributing factor to the success of change initiatives. And also, unionized locations or other regulated situations may require notice of any upcoming changes. So for getting driver buy-in, having that change management and communication is very important. And Samsara has actually distilled industry best practices and learnings from our most successful customers into 9 essential tips for getting driver buy-in. So this is a great blog article that will be linked in some of the resources we send after this webinar. But to highlight some of the key factors, being transparent and engaging your drivers can help to get that buy-in when you collaborate with drivers on your timeline and milestones, communicate often, and gather their feedback and ideas. It's also important to explain to your drivers how the technology works. For example, when footage will be uploaded and what's going to trigger any corrective actions from your safety managers. Also be sure to showcase real examples from your fleet. So maybe install a dash cam in your own vehicle or ask 1 or 2 drivers to test them and share their experience. Or if you're already using those dash cams and you have an example of a near miss or not at fault collision captured by a dash cam, share it with all of your drivers. Successful exoneration is the most powerful way to get buy-in from skeptics. So if you have that exoneration footage, showcase it so that drivers know that the dash cams are there for them as well. It's also important to celebrate defensive driving and offer incentives and rewards for safe driving. Creating that sense of community and positivity around safety instead of focusing on negative events can help get your drivers on board. So again, be sure to recognize and highlight footage of defensive driving. And you can also use Samsara's gamification features for driver scores, which encourages some friendly competition for those rewards. The safety director of Protected Cargo Transport has recommended having open sessions where drivers can say respectfully what they think is right or wrong with the company and make suggestions for changes. So collaborating across all levels to create that culture of safety ensures that your drivers feel heard. And by planning to have ongoing communication, engagement, and appreciation, you can actually improve your driver retention with a safety program. There are some unique considerations if you're creating a dash cam program with union drivers. Unions may have concerns about how the technology works and how it will be used. So it's important to go to the union first so that you can build a program rooted in your shared goal of keeping drivers safe. And you can use data and research to demonstrate the value of a video-based safety program, using some examples from Samsara customers or your own fleet. Also for union drivers, make sure to survey them and dispel any myths. Drivers often think dash cams will be used to spy on them 24/7. So it's important to be very specific about what triggers video to be uploaded, what features are enabled, those types of things. And for union drivers in particular, follow through on your policy is just as important as the policy itself, if not more so. So be sure to clearly outline the seriousness of different infractions, when and how coaching will occur, and the process for any disciplinary actions. Samsara's driver coaching tools can help to increase the consistency, accountability, and efficiency of coaching using various automated workflows. And again, be sure to offer rewards and incentives and follow through on those as well. I want to highlight again that gamification can be a great way to encourage drivers to drive safely, because countless studies have shown that when an activity is more fun, people are more likely to do it. But again, the biggest thing for union drivers is to go to the union first and clearly communicate the benefits of that video-based safety program using data as proof points. Having the driver buy-in and collaboration can make a big difference, but getting buy-in over time is more effective than all at once. For example, one of our customers, a nationally recognized meat distributor, turned on every feature at once, including voice coaching. This is a feature that allows our dash cams to play in-cab audio message for harsh events, speeding, and unbuckled seatbelts, things along those lines. The Senior Director of Transportation and Logistics said what they saw was that the camera would immediately start talking to the driver if he had a harsh event, and those interactions were happening all of a sudden, which kind of confused the drivers for a few days. So about halfway through their rollout, they turned off the voice coaching and focused on familiarizing drivers with the dash cams and the driver app. And once the drivers were accustomed to the technology, they saw a much better drop in harsh events compared to the first time they turned it on. They saw a tenfold drop as opposed to the first time. So the drivers were more likely to benefit from that real-time feedback with voice coaching once they were already familiar with the technology. So on the note of rolling out those features and stages, I do also want to address using the different tools and reward programs to drive a measurable impact. So once you have that plan and you have driver buy-in, identify some tools to measure the impact of these initiatives and reward success. Samsara has numerous features to help evaluate and refine your program at every step of the way. Our dashcam customers consistently demonstrate a measurable impact from their safety initiatives. Using footage to exonerate drivers results in significant cost savings. And customers say Samsara has helped improve safety within their fleet. 93% report that dashcams have not negatively impacted driver retention. So using our tools can really help bring value to your safety program. Through your dashboard, you can track the progress of the program over time. The accumulation of various metrics will demonstrate the progress and impact over time. And if you analyze that data, you can iterate changes in real time at every step during your program rollout. The safety dashboard uses safety data trends to compare safety scores and driver behavior. And you can use this to make course corrections or prioritize coaching using the risk factor reports. We also have a coaching effectiveness report, which helps surface driver behaviors that have been repeated after coaching. So if you're looking at the dashboard, you can take a look at, for the different key categories that you might be considering, how has the safety program improved these, and how are the behaviors doing as far as repeat behaviors or not seeing those behaviors anymore. Some other features that you might want to take a look at include configurable safety scores. You can measure what matters most by configuring your safety scores to reflect your fleet's unique safety priorities. So safety managers can prioritize over 25 individual factors based on what's most important to your fleet. When you tune these different weights, you can get those really personalized safety scores for your organization. And also note that defensive driving is going to positively impact those safety scores. So the more you recognize drivers for driving safely, the better their scores will be. There's also some great automatically detected events that can be turned on. So in addition to the G-force triggers for harsh events, you can also enable some camera AI detected events and events that are based on vehicle and map data. And Samsara can automatically detect these safety incidents and upload footage to your dashboard to make sure that that coaching happens. There's also the in-cab voice coaching to notify drivers in real time for most of these incidents. And if you want to receive real-time notifications for your administrators for some priority incidents, there's also the admin alerts that can be configured to send an email or so again, Samsara has some great training resources in our training center and our live new user webinars to go into more detail about setting up these various features and enabling the real-time data. So now let's take a look at one of our customers that has kind of put this all together and created an action plan to roll out a safety program that drove some really great measurable impact on their organization. Dorn Transfer Company utilizes Samsara to manage its large vehicle fleet, including with a safety program. So they've transparently informed their drivers before implementing any changes so that drivers knew how their driving behavior would impact their safety ranking. And they've also gamified the driver scores to show drivers their safety score and ranking on a daily basis with some peer groups for localized competition. They reward drivers with the highest Samsara safety scores to recognize their commitment to safe driving. And as a result, they've seen an overall 88% decrease in the frequency of safety events, as well as a 10% decrease in driver turnover. So again, by having this culture of safety where the drivers feel engaged and heard and recognized for driving safely, they've decreased turnover and seen some really great value from this safety program. The COO, Robert Howard, stated that the more they engage their drivers and give them the tools to make their jobs easier, the more they are engaged in having safe behavior. So an effective program is both collaborative and data-driven to drive those impactful results. And again, Samsara has numerous success stories from dashcam programs that have reduced safety events, collisions, and safety-related costs. So just to highlight a few of those, Dorn Transfer Company, again, saw an 88% reduction in their harsh events. Kihi Distributors saw 18% fewer accidents. Markstein Sales saved over $100,000 a year. And Sprint Waste saw a $500,000 insurance decrease. So when you go to measure that impact, that's sort of the last step for your safety program. It's important to compare those baseline metrics that you identified at the beginning of the process and compare those to the new data that demonstrates the impact of your initiatives. And if you use this data to make data-driven adjustments and course corrections, that will help to maximize the value seen from your initiatives. So with that, I will hand it back over to Priscilla to recap and move into some live question and answer.
Thank you, Mira. So we've gone through a lot today, and I especially just want to highlight the steps that walk you through the entire process of building a safety program. So let me see if I can pull these slides up for you again. One thing that I might recommend for folks who are maybe doing this for the first time is to take a look at the slides that we will send you after the webinar, and then maybe even print out these slides with the steps on them. So step one, evaluating your existing program or where you are today. Analyzing your safety data. If you have cameras, if you have Samsara, you have that available to you in your dashboard. And our recommendation is to define your goals based on the metrics and the areas that you see in your data so that you're sure that you're tackling the correct areas and taking a look at what the kind of like math associated, or the conceptual math that we're talking about is your baseline, your suggested change, and then getting that driver buy-in to decide, hey, do we think that we can reach this goal? Is this goal attainable? Second is to take a look at some of the initiatives that align with your goals, so you know that the changes that you want to make will actually have the impact that you intend. You know, sometimes we have goals and we make some decisions for changes, but actually those changes can't actually make an impact on kind of the final goal metric. And we just want to make sure that all of the goals and the data and initiatives are lined up so that the work that you do actually comes out to make an impact in the way that you are hoping it will. And then step three is creating an action plan. Taking your goals, your initiatives, and getting that alignment across your organization with leadership and with your drivers. And we also shared about the tools that you have access to Samsara that can help you drive that measurable impact, which Mira just stated. You know, measuring before you put something in place and making sure to note that information down. And then once you've had a program in place over the period of time, taking a look at that number again, and then being able to calculate the amount of change and the impact of the initiative that you did put in place. I just wanted to remind everyone that, you know, this is an iterative process, like Mira was saying. You're going to be kind of running through these cycles over and over and over again, and every single time you'll be able to find something small that previously maybe you didn't notice, make a decision on that, get that alignment, get the drivers on board of new change that you want to make, and then go ahead and see the impact that that change has driven for your organization. So I think, you know, maybe what is helpful to realize is that building a safety program actually just is a continuous process. There's always something that can be improved. You will always have new data to take a look at and analyze, and then you can always make new decisions on what you want to tackle next. We also shared a lot of real stories from your peers on how they did this with their fleet and what they have achieved so far. And hopefully that gave you some ideas of what you might want to try as well. So now we're going to kind of move over into live Q&A. I know you guys have been submitting a ton of questions, and I just want to thank our support and customer success teams again. Beth, Sylvia, Sarah, Elizabeth, and Nicole have been answering your questions live on chat. And if you have questions, you still have time. Go ahead and enter those into the Q&A box, and we'll get to them. Okay, but moving into our live Q&A, there are some questions, Mira, for you that I want to kind of highlight. The first one, and there was a question about, what do you mean by train the trainer?
Yeah, so great question. The train the trainer approach allows you to kind of customize your training program by having your core team trained by Samsara first, and using our training center and webinars that we have, we provide a lot of great resources for those core team members to train the rest of the organization. So a training approach that is custom to your organization's goals and highlights the features that you're leveraging is going to be the most impactful downstream. So if you start with having that core team trained by Samsara and then use the resources we provide to create a organization-specific training program for everyone else, that's going to drive home what you're working on and why more effectively than just using the Samsara resources kind of as is.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we just got a flurry of questions in about related to how to set up some of the things that you've just talked about, you know, configurable safety score, some of the alerts, the AI detected events, coaching and stuff like that. Where can people find more information about that?
Absolutely. I know we highlighted a lot more of the why to do some different things rather than necessarily the mechanics of how. And the reason for that is that Samsara's knowledge-based training center and live new user webinars all offer some really great how-to step-by-step information on setting those things up. So if you're curious about any of the features that have been mentioned, I've made sure to link the relevant training articles on those various features and the resources that we're going to provide. And I would invite you to check out the Cameras and Safety Training Center course, as well as the live webinar that we have every week. That webinar takes place every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific, so noon Eastern. If you want to attend that webinar, it goes through very step-by-step where all of these features are and how to configure them.
Great. And I just want to echo that plug. If you are interested in step-by-step how to configure certain things in your dashboard, turn on gamification maybe, the mechanics of going through your dashboard and turning these tools on, I would suggest that you go and attend the live webinar on Thursdays, as Mira mentioned, and get that information. We will also have live Q&A during those sessions, so you can ask very, very detailed questions as they walk through how you can do these things. Switching gears a little bit, we got some questions about transparency in, the transparency related to corrective action, or this idea of how do you discipline drivers without losing them. I think there's this concern of, maybe the change that needs to be enacted is related to making sure that drivers actually are held accountable for the behaviors that they have on the road. Mira, what do you have to say for folks who are concerned about that?
So for that concern of kind of creating that tension or division with corrective actions, if you're using footage from the dash cams that demonstrates the behaviors that you're coaching your drivers on, a lot of times what you'll see is that drivers acknowledge that this is something they probably shouldn't be doing. So for example, if there's a distracted driving event detected and you can see clearly in the video that this driver's head or jawline is turned away from the road while they're going way too quickly for that. And a lot of times drivers will see that kind of footage and say, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't be doing that. So if you're taking those corrective actions consistently and you define for your drivers exactly how their behavior is going to impact their scores or performance ratings, then they'll clearly see that you're following through on your program. You're not singling anybody out. You have everything laid out ahead of time. So any drivers who engage in those risky behaviors are already aware of how that's going to affect their coaching sessions.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, this fear of people being upset at new rules being instated. If you are able to work with your drivers and include them in the process, they might actually have a lot of suggestions that you have never thought about before. What we've heard from one of our customers who actually really focuses on driver engagement is that they actually prefer for their drivers to let them know if some of their processes or new ideas aren't really going to work. For example, they had this idea for improving safety that included that drivers should not be on their phones, but then also the dispatch team wanted them to text the dispatch team before they arrived at a customer location, right? And so those two policies are definitely conflicting, and the drivers took the opportunity to give feedback on that. And so they were able to make a change in terms of different internal policies that were happening. So I think this collaborative approach with working with drivers can really help just improve the company safety and efficiency overall. There are a lot of things that drivers might experience that, those of us in the back office might not understand. and getting that perspective will be really valuable and really helpful in kind of the longevity and success of any of your safety initiatives in the long run.
Absolutely. I think the number one way to create tension in division is to go with a top-down, management-only, do what we say kind of approach. If you get the drivers involved, not just in the process, but in the planning of that process, they're going to be much more on board with whatever you've put in place because they're helping to make you or helping you to do it.
Totally. And I think that can come in many different forms. So some customers that we work with decide that they want to create a small team of drivers that represent maybe different locations that you have or different kinds of shifts or kinds of driving. And that is kind of the core team that the safety team really gets feedback from. And those drivers can help champion the changes and get feedback from the rest of their kind of peers in the organization. So that's definitely one way to do it. Another way to do it is to have an open forum, maybe have kind of a way for drivers to anonymously give feedback, maybe during coaching sessions, a way to give feedback on, why they feel sometimes an incident could not be avoided, right? So for safety coaches to be there and understand, okay, what are other extraneous factors maybe that are contributing to a driver's inability to follow this rule or behave in a certain way. I think there are many different ways, and it really depends on your organization and what is going to work best for your drivers in terms of your specific method of collaborating with them. I think we have time for one last question, and I'm really interested, Mira, in this idea of measuring impact. A lot of work goes into planning and creating goals and getting your entire company with drivers aligned to the goal. Can you talk more about why it's so important to measure impact along the way?
Absolutely. So having that data and that actual evidence of the impact of your initiatives is going to really drive home to everybody in the organization what the value is behind having a safety program. So rather than just saying, oh, these are the steps we've taken, and sure, it's improved safety, you can point to the actual percentage changes, the actual dollars saved, the hard numbers and evidence that supports the fact that this safety program is having an impact, is helping to improve things. And I think that is really great for the managers to have, for that safety team to have, so they can demonstrate to leadership that the initiatives that they're enacting are driving value for the company. And it's great for the drivers too, to see that their actions and their participation in the program is having an impact on the entire organization, not just on their individual driving experience.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, this idea of how to incentivize everybody to participate in this very large group project, right? We've actually heard customers say that the savings that they receive from these improved behaviors on the road, they can reinvest that into other kind of driver or employee engagement programs. Maybe some bonus structures related to safe driving. Dorn used some of the savings that they received to kind of start off that award, the annual award that they have for the Samsara Safety Score. So there are a lot of creative ways that you can take those savings and then basically give it back to the drivers and create this feedback loop of good behavior resulting in savings, and then reinvesting those savings into different programs that really encourage additional good behaviors. So lots of really interesting things to consider that your peers have already enacted in the past. And I know that we're getting close on time here, so I want to spotlight some of the upcoming trainings that are available to you for free. As Mira stated before, there are trainings like this that you've probably seen me email you about before. We have the new user trainings that Mira and her team run weekly that you have access to for free. We also have the training center that's accessible in your dashboard that has courses and guided paths on different topics. So I hope that you guys all take advantage of these resources. But for now, I'm highlighting some upcoming training webinars that might be interesting to you. So the first one, we have a training webinar on managing Canada hours of service. Samsara is fully supporting Canada ELD, and we've submitted our solution for certification. We're going to hold this training on May 20th to go over all the changes so that you're prepared for June 12th. So Canada ELD will be relevant for any fleet who crosses over the border into Canada and needs to have an ELD to track hours of service that way. Another training that's coming up in May will be how to reduce fuel costs. So it will be very, very similar to this training, but focused on fuel efficiency and different programs with examples from your peers, our customers, on how they've improved fuel costs and built additional programs up for fuel efficiency purposes. And then, of course, Samsara Quarterly will be coming up later in June to go over the latest feature releases and how you can use them. All right, so I know you hear us talking about getting feedback a lot, and our training webinars are no exception. We would really love your feedback on this webinar. So any of you on the line with a smart device, you could take a moment to open up that camera app and hold it up to this QR code. A link will pop up on your screen, and I'll leave the slide up for you. Go ahead and fill out that feedback survey right now. I promise we'll be really quick. We use your feedback so that we can improve these webinars to provide additional information and value to you as you kind of gain more information about Samsara. While you're doing that, a couple announcements. If you've submitted a question via chat and you haven't gotten a response yet, don't worry, we'll follow up with you regarding your question after the webinar. I also want to remind you that we will be sending out an email later today with some resources. You'll get a recording of today's training. You'll have a PDF of the slides that we went through today. We'll include additional links, including the links to sign up for the new user trainings that Mira has mentioned before, and probably a couple other resources related to rolling out a safety training, a safety program, that might be helpful as you guys embark on this journey. As we finalize additional dates for some of the upcoming training webinars, we'll send out emails and the registration links for those, so keep an eye out for that. But that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining. Please take a second and scan the QR code, share your feedback for us. We really value that. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we hope to see you again soon.